What can I, a boring middle-aged guy with a moderate following on Transformers Twitter, possibly have to say about MP10 Optimus Prime that hasn't been said by pretty much every Transformers review channel out there? Probably not much. Doing real good with the audience retention here. Thing is, I don't just review figures on this channel, I also catalogue my collecting goals that I make each year. This year, I set 3 goals. Collect up the G1 Double Targetmasters, get one of them new Diaclone figures, and finally, a new Masterpiece Optimus Prime. This is going to be a quick and breezy review because you've probably heard all this stuff before. I just need to get this one off my chest because it's part of my collecting goals. I have MP1 here, but the lad is over 20 years old and has seen better days. I decided I wanted a new Masterpiece, classic G1 style Optimus Prime, and here is the one I went with. What a predictable choice. I did toy with getting one of them third party ones, but one day I saw an auction for the 2012 Hasbro release of MP10, the second Masterpiece Prime, complete inbox with all the accessories for less than I was seeing the Magic Square and Transform Element takes going for. This has the trailer, a roller, a spike, that axe. Remember when the axe was a novelty? The extras are nice and all, but I'm here for the figure, and what a figure. People gush about this thing for a reason, and now so will I. Now, MP1 was a fantastic figure that's big and bulky and real heavy. There's a real heft to it, and the design is very much taking that G1 cartoon design and adding mechanical detail. MP10 took that design aesthetic and shrunk it down a fair bit, and refined what we had before. It's not the same figure, of course, but it's kind of a sequel that has learned the lessons from the last few years. The early Masterpiece figures were released over quite a wide period of time, and there really wasn't any defined scale or style. It's crazy to think now, but in the 8 years between MP1 and this lad, there was only 5 unique moulds. Each one had its own approach pretty much. With MP10, it was like there was a soft reboot of the line. With the exception of some repaints from here on out, there was more new designs and the scale and style started to become a lot more cohesive. It was like they settled on what the path forward was from here. This is the sort of look I like in my Masterpieces. I want them to look a bit mechanical. Like the vehicle stood up. There's all these small details like pistons and vents and hinges that for sure toned down a little from MP1, but they help make this guy feel like a tangible robot that could exist. I think the slavishly animation accurate looks are lovely and often very impressive, but they don't quite hit the mark I like. The details on MP10 never overtake the figure either. There's just enough to sell the vision, but not so much that it becomes white noise. The perfect balance. Posing this Prime can feel a little odd compared to what we get even in the mainline Generations figures. Everything is here, all the bicep swivels and knee ratchets you could want. There's a neat element where the shoulders slide out a little to allow for a little more freedom of movement without breaking up the shoulder blocks themselves. It's different to how most figures do it today, and to be fair, just letting the block break up with a hinge would have given more range. But I appreciate they created a workaround to maintain the look they wanted. There's a limited thigh swivel which is accompanied by an unencumbered below the knee joint. This can lead to some slightly odd leg looks, but I'm fine with it. It does have surprisingly loose ankles though, that's something to watch out for. The articulation we have here is like a prototype for the standard today. I'll circle around to this whole where we are today thing in a bit. I didn't mention the gun. This is cool. It stores away in that big backpack chunk Prime always has, and at the touch of a hair trigger button, it unfolds in a flash. Love that. Gearing Prime up with the axe and gun does make for a cool combo, probably why the axe is in there, and that's the weapons mentioned. Shall we get this lad transformed? The transformation process is very familiar. Everything pretty much ends up where you expect. The arms do a bit of unfolding, and there's a little bit of a surprise where the front wheels are hidden when you flip and twist out the sides of Prime's midriff. They 100% vanish in robot mode and it's so well done. The legs have a few simple sections that flip around to expose the wheels and thicken up the legs enough to allow them to combine. You do have to shove them in over the thighs by pressing this button in the back. Normally I'd worry about the legs losing their strength, but this little latch button makes sure that they should stay nice and strong. And other than a few panels you swing around from the back to the front, that's pretty much it. And that is a big red truck like we all expected. And this truck mode is kinda exceptional. It's so clean and well put together. Everything is locked into place and there's very little in the way of obvious panel lines. It's pretty impressive that it pulls all this off with a transformation that isn't really that complex by modern standards. Like, Earthrise Prime isn't really far off this. There's Generations figures that pull off more complicated moves and don't end up as spot on as this. Colours are exactly how I like my primes. They're bold and strong, not too dark. The chromed grille and fuel tanks and pipes are lovely. That's something we don't get so much of nowadays. Now, I would transform MP1 to compare, but as mentioned, he's not doing great. So here's a pic of it for comparison's sake. Honestly, that original truck does look a bit off now by comparison. Love MP1, but this is better, isn't it? There's Spike. Shall we talk about the trailer? Here it is. This is maybe the third time I've gotten it out of the box. It is a big trailer and has some nice functions and weapon storage. I do like how when you swing the support struts around, they automatically lower into place. Inside we have the repair bay drone, and Prime can stand inside getting all repaired and stuff. You can flip down some panels to let the repair bay drone peek through. Oh god, I got it dead on. That's neat. At the end of the day though, it's another trailer in it. Maybe the best one I have, sure, but it's a big grey box. Worth mentioning that Roller can attach and pull him along if you want. Here's something cool though. Remember that Modfans ruler figure I reviewed last year? Great figure, get yourself one. At the time I mentioned how Ruler in his alt mode can attach and pull the Masterpiece trailer along, but I couldn't demo it as I didn't have the trailer at the time. Well now I do, and here it is. Looks real good and he makes a good stand-in for the Roller that actually comes with MP10, if you want an alternative choice. So yeah, that's MP10 Optimus Prime, a true masterpiece, the poster boy for masterpieces I'd say. In recent years Takara did do another Masterpiece Prime that ups the complexity and leans heavily into animation style, and I don't know if that's for me. I think this is my forever Masterpiece Prime. That said, there's a lot of good Prime going around this year. As noted, this guy isn't really that far off what we get in Generations today. Obviously he's bigger and has more of a premium finish, but the articulation and complexity isn't really that far off. Real soon we'll be seeing that Commander class Studio Series Prime, and I do wonder if it's basically going to be this but scaled down a little. That Commander Ultra Magnus took more than a few cues for the Masterpiece figure after all.
Yes! Oh no, he died!
Even then, let's say Masterpiece isn't your thing. You've got Missing Link Prime, which I love. There's a Legacy Deluxe Prime coming based on the G1 toy that's basically a budget Missing Link. If G1 isn't your thing, we've had modern takes on animated and Armada Primes recently, both of which are real good. If you want a movie style one, I recommend the Rise of the Beast mainline lad. He was way better than you'd think. Point is, if you want a nice modern Optimus Prime with all the articulation you could want that fulfills whatever aesthetic you could want, then you're well served. Normally I'd say there's a bit too much Prime right now, but come on, it's his birthday. If you do really want a masterpiece though, I highly, fully, very much recommend MP10 here. There's a silly amount of repaints if you want a variation on the classic colours. Some of them are pretty affordable. It's entirely possible to get one for under £100, which is fair for a masterpiece of this calibre. And that's me done for Masterpiece Optimus Primes. Takara recently announced that the Masterpiece line as we know it is going through a rebranding, and the MPG line that was launched with Raiden. I ain't moving that figure. You'll have to imagine him. Is going to be where the line continues from now on. The figure crossing the divide will be two takes on Jinrai, a standard truck cab Jinrai at the end of the MP line, whilst his powered mastered up super mode version is in the MPG line, and ooh, I kind of want it. Strangely, it doesn't look that much more complex than the Armada Prime we had recently. Maybe the term mini masterpiece that's been getting bandied around for years has really finally caught up to the actual masterpieces. And if it is, I'd say MP10 is where that blurring of the lines began. Thank you for putting up with the big gap between my last review and this one. My lights fell apart and I have been saving for TF Nation. I'll be back sooner rather than later, I hope. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter at WildWillsHat, and if you want to do a subscribe here, that'd be much appreciated. Let me know what Prime you consider your masterpiece, because honestly, there's so many top tier Primes around these days. All picks are valid. Catch you later.